Sometimes you feel so alone and overwhelmed you don't know where to turn. These days, it seems like there is no end to our problems. We invite you to connect with Silent Unity, the 24-hour prayer ministry where someone is waiting to pray with you right now. Since 1890, Silent Unity has always been there. No judgment or dogma, just someone affirming the best for you. Call 816-969-2000 today. You can also connect online at unityprayervigil.org.
Providing insight and resources for your spiritual journey. Unity Online Radio. Thank you for tuning in for this Unity Partner Program. Unity Online Radio partners with spiritual leaders from organizations whose mission and messages complement Unity's. We are pleased to bring you this program on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Thanks for joining us for Living on Purpose with spiritual psychology doctoral candidate Jessie Harriet from Atlanta, Georgia. This program is where psychology is blended with ancient wisdom. Welcome to the program. Here's your host, Jessie Harriet.
And thank you, folks, for tuning in for another episode of Living on Purpose. My name is Jessie Harriet, where the goal of this show has been to empower you to be able to fulfill your purpose and your dream with passion and to step out into the unknown and let your life lightly dance on the edges of time like dew on the tip of a leaf. I'm excited today, folks. I'm sure you can probably feel my energy. I have a very special guest on the show who I've been trying to get on the show for the past year. And I do want to thank you, folks, for all of your support and emails and your following on social network and Twitter and Facebook, because in just 1 year, this has been a crazy ride. I mean, from Dr. Arun Gandhi to Dr. Joe Dispenza to Susan Cain. I mean, so many people, Bishop John Shelby Spong, have graced the show, and it's been because of your support and your push that the ratings have been where they are, and we're just moving forward. So I'm excited at what 2013 is going to bring. And if you have any ideas or any particular questions about the guests, shoot me an email. As always, my ear is wide open to you guys, because I believe that this show is an extended conversation, not just one between me and the guest who I'm dialoguing with, but one with me and all of the world who's listening around the world. So on that note, I want to switch and welcome Dr. John Demartini. He's a best-selling author. He's been on The Secret, of course. Everyone knows him from that. I mean, from his breakthrough seminars all across the world, dozens of books. You name it, he's done it. He's been on TV and all of that wonderful stuff. Dr. John Demartini, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. I know your schedule is very busy, and like I said, I have been following your work for a long time prior to The Secret. For folks that have just met you, could you introduce yourself to them? Tell them a bit about your work.
Well, you know, I'm a teacher. I love researching, writing, traveling, and teaching, and that's what I do full time. I've been doing it. This is my 41st year of teaching. And I just love traveling and researching and writing and doing what I can to inspire people. That's my life. That's what I do.
Wow. Dr. Demartini, I have to ask you this first question starting off. You teach a course called The Breakthrough Experience. Let's jump right into that, because my question is tied into the folks that feel that they're stuck. I'm ready to jump right into it. How does the Breakthrough Experience help us to move past those stumbling blocks and those things that we feel hold us back from accomplishing our dreams and things of that nature?
Well, you know, in the Breakthrough Experience, I help people ask a new set of questions so they see through a new lens the same experiences, but in a way where things are on the way, not in the way, where things are instructive, not obstructive, so they can become masters of their destiny, not victims of their history. Because I really believe that the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. And if you ask a new set of questions, you get a new life. And so the Breakthrough Experience shows people how to break through the fears and the emotional baggage and all the stuff that they think is in the way and turn things around in such a way where they say thank you. Because anything we can't say thank you for is our baggage. Anything we can say thank you for is our fuel.
That's very true. That's very true. So how do you work with difficult people? Because, I believe there are two sets of people in the world. I think the Bible talks about this too in the New Testament, that there are some people who can take the information and they're ready to run, but then there are others who have years and years and years of baggage stored up in their unconscious, whether it's because they've been physically abused or whether they've abused themselves through their self-talk and through their poor self-esteem, or looking at the economy and listening to those reports, and they can't find jobs and they think it's their race or their socioeconomic backgrounds that keep them back. How do you break through with those difficult clients?
Well, I always say that the first thing I do is I don't ever see difficult clients. I just see people. And I just see people with unique sets of values. And everybody wants to fulfill what's highest on their value, their purpose. In the ancient Greeks, they had a term called the telos. And the telos was the end in mind, the chief aim, the highest value, the thing that was most inspiring to people. And they made a whole study of it called teleology, which is a study of meaning and purpose. So when somebody identifies what's truly most important to them, their highest value, the thing that's most meaningful to them, and they set goals that are congruent and aligned with those, they increase the probability of awakening up their genius, awakening up their natural-born leader, and giving themselves permission to do something extraordinary. But what some people do is they subordinate to other people because they're too humble to admit what they see in others is inside them, and they minimize themselves, and they inject the values and ideals of other people into their life and try to be somebody they're not, and then bang their head against the wall, because anytime you set a goal that doesn't match what's truly important to you, you get the internal negative self-talk to try to let you know that you're not being true to yourself. So it's important to be true to what's really important to you and set goals that are aligned with that, because if you do, you wake up that power, that affirmative nature that says, I can do it.
I think that's so true, because I've also seen that in my own life and just bumping into people, and how do you get people to give up that story, that explanation, because I think people work hard at their dreams, but they also work hard at excuses and explanations sometimes for why they can't get their dreams. You ask them a question or ask them about a desire or a goal, and automatically that story comes up, that unconscious explanation as to why I can't.
Well, there's a basic law called Parkinson's Law. The Parkinson's Law says if you don't fill your day with things that inspire you, it will fill up with things that don't. If you don't fill your day with the highest priorities, you'll fill up with the distractions of low priorities. If you don't plant flowers in the garden of your mind, you'll keep pulling weeds. So the first thing to do is to fill your mind with things that are inspiring to you and start focusing on what is important to you, and the story dissolves away. If I hear people start running the story, I just stop them. I said, I'm not interested in the story. I'm interested in your dreams. Tell me about your dream now. Because if you're focusing on the story gets bigger. If you focus on the dreams get bigger.
That's true. That's true. Let's take can we step back for a second and go into your story and your history? How did you become the person you are today? Because I'm very much interested in biographies, and I think sometimes when we listen to the teachings of individuals, by looking at their biographies, it allows us to connect with them on a deeper level. And because, sometimes we see teachers, that are on television and things like that, and we feel like, oh, I could never be that, or I could never do that, whatever it is that you plan to do, as an individual. But when we look at their biographies, we see the same struggles and we see the same things that they went through, we might have went through as well. And it kind of inspires us to, in a sense, push through our own challenges. Could you take us into your story? How did you get your start?
Well, that's fine. I don't mind telling the story as long as it teaches a principle. But I can just say that in our lives, whatever happens to us, it's always on the way. And I always say that if you can't see it that way, it's your baggage. If you can, it becomes your fuel, as I said. So the first thing to do is I started out being born with my hand and foot turned in. I had pigeon foot and pigeon hand, and I had to wear braces from 2 to 4 to try to get my foot and leg straight. And then when I begged my dad to let me out of those braces when I was 4, he said, well, if you keep your foot and arm straight, then that's fine. If not, we got to go back in them. So I did everything I could to keep them straight. And man, when I got out of those braces, I was on the run. I travel full time. I travel 500,000 miles a year. I'm still on the run. So that was a perfect thing for me in my life to have that constraint, because I wanted freedom. And today I'm a free man. I travel the world. I live all over the place. So that was a perfect thing, even though at the time I didn't see it. And a lot of times people have things happen and they don't see the magnificence to it then, but if they look again and ask a new set of questions and reflect on it, they'll discover that it's on the way, not in the way. Then I got to first grade, and I found out that I had learning problems. I had dyslexia and disabilities in speaking and things, And I was told by my first grade teacher I'd never read or write or communicate, never amount to anything, never go very far in life in front of my parents. I had to sit in a dunce class in those days with a dunce cap on, 1960. And so that was perfect because that led me to dropping out of school, living on the streets, and learn how to get street smart and learn how to, ask for what I want and ask new sets of questions and many other things. That did almost lead me to die when I was 17, but that at the same time, that created a void in my life. And when I was 17, I was in the North Shore of Oahu. I was surfing on the North Shore at the time, and I met a guy named Paul Bragg. And Paul Bragg inspired me one night, and his 1-hour speech literally opened up a doorway in me and made me believe that maybe someday, if I worked at it, I could be intelligent and I could read. Because I didn't read till I was 18. So then that inspired me to want to try to go back and see if I could do that. I took a GED, a high school equivalency, because I dropped out of school, took a college entrance exam, and tried to learn how to read. And I learned by reading a dictionary and memorizing 30 words a day until I could learn the vocabulary enough to read. And I slowly but surely accumulated the ability to read. And then I got off on developing speed reading. And today I teach speed reading. It's interesting. The teacher said I would never do certain things, but now I've read over 29,500 books. I've traveled 500,000 miles. Everything she said I wouldn't do, I've reached millions of people. All the things she said I would never do is what I'm doing. So the very thing that somebody says you can't do may be the very thing you're destined to do. I'm very grateful for her saying that because it gave me the void for me to do what I do today.
Right. Oh, my God.
So I always say that don't look at your life as a baggage. I look at it as a fuel and look at it as on the way, because if you do, you'll ask questions, say, how is whatever I'm experiencing today help me fulfill my great mission on earth?
Right. And so if you can ever just get through that moment, I think Joe Campbell talks about that, and he tells a story that, when you look at your life, sometimes it looks like a mess because, you have one surprise after another, but at the end of the day, you're charting your own course. So of course it's going to be a surprise, because there's no precedent for it. But at the end of the day, when you look back, it seems like a perfectly, woven plot, like a beautiful story, but you have to get through.
That's it. Well, a mess is a monumental empire of spiritual service. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity.
Exactly. So let's move on. Some of the services or some of the products that you offer the breakthrough service, the breakthrough experience. How long is the breakthrough experience, and how in detailed is it? And what can we expect to receive from it if we attend one of those seminars?
Well, it's 24 hours with me. So if you can handle me for you can handle me for 24 hours. It's a very intense program. It starts at 8 in the morning, goes to at least midnight, and then goes again from about 9 in the morning till about 7. And I do everything I can with a workshop. It's not a massive audience. It's a more of a workshop thing. And what I do is I basically do everything I can individually to help them break through what's in the way. Whatever their perceptions, whatever their past is, we break it through. We get clear about what they want to do. We show them how to break through fear and resentment and baggage and shame and guilt and all that stuff. And we get them clear about what their purpose is and how they can literally capitalize on it so they can actually do what they love and get paid for it. So their vocation and vacation is the same. So they can get on with doing something extremely powerful and meaningful in their life and not sit there and, give excuses. So it's a very powerful program. I work with them one-on-one to break through, and I teach them the method on how to dissolve all the emotional baggage so they get on with their life.
And the Demartini method, my wife and I have both kind of looked at the Demartini method and utilized, and there were some interesting things that came out of it that told us about ourselves and our values. And I know you also teach that whenever you have, like you said, we all, in a sense, have different values. And when you get in a relationship with someone, their values may not be the same as yours. And you can't argue with someone to make them, in a sense, take on your values. And could you tell us a bit more?
Anytime two people are exactly the same, one's not necessary.
Right.
So if you try to get them to be like you undermine it. They found in Scientific American in the March edition this year, they found out that anytime you try to get your spouse to be just like you shut down your sexuality. So you don't realize it. That doesn't work. You don't want to do that. So it's important to realize that every human being has a unique set of priorities and values in their life, and they want to be loved and appreciated for who they are, and who they are is an expression of the highest values. That's what they're dedicated to. So you want to ask the question, what is it that they're dedicated to? What are you dedicated to? And how is what they're dedicated to helping you fulfill what you're dedicated to, and vice versa? And if you ask that question and answer that about 100 times, you'll now have a dialogue with them instead of alternating monologues where you're speaking and they're not listening and they're speaking and you're not listening. The key is to make sure you communicate what you would love in terms of what they would love. Then you both get what you dream in life.
Right. Because if you, and I think you said this too, if you communicate to someone in their values, you'll definitely have their attention, and you'll probably be able to get your point across, and maybe even to find mutual ground that you both can stand on.
Well, everybody wants to be loved for who they are, and if you communicate in their values, they open up to you, and their greatest contribution to you emerges. So that I teach that in the Breakthrough. That's one of the tools we do in the Breakthrough experience, to show people how to do that and let them role play that. It's really eye-opening because they realize we typically label people when we don't know how to communicate to people. And labels are not truths, they're half-truths. But when we communicate to people, we always find a loving person. But whenever we put people on pedestals or pits, we keep them from getting into our hearts.
That's so true, because at the end of the day, when we can't get them to do what we want, we always throw them away or we demonize them. They must be this because they can't, they don't want to do what we want them to do.
We want to take them off the angelic pinnacle, and we want to take them out of the pit of the demon, and we want to put them in our heart and see that they're a human being worthy of love.
Exactly. I married a couple weeks ago, and I told them, I said, that hot and heavy passion has to move to compassion. Because you remember Young said that at the end of the day, you project your godlike qualities onto that woman, but when you have that first quality, she goes from being an angel to a demon. So you have to have that human love.
I always say that I got asked on a radio show last night. I did another show last night, and it was really interesting. They say, what do you do when you got a critical person, a negative person? I said, you only attract a critical and negative person when you're addicted to being praised.
Yes.
When you're addicted to being praised, you got to have somebody to humble you, because otherwise you get puffed up and you get exaggerant. And we're not here to exaggerate or minimize ourselves. We're here to love ourselves. And the same with other people. So the second we get above equilibrium, we get a critical person. God sends us a critical person to bring us back into our true self.
Yes, that is so true.
I always say that the purpose of marriage is not happiness. The purpose of marriage is authenticity. So if you're addicted to happiness, you're going to get pretty sad.
Oh, yeah. You are going to grow. I think it's one of the fastest ways to grow spiritually, emotionally, psychologically is to get married or get in a relationship.
Well, I had some fun one time on one of my programs. It was really quite cute. I asked how many people are married here, and 70% of the people were married in the program. Mm-hmm. And I said, how many of you, just out of curiosity, have thought about killing your spouse? And they all put their hands up. And I said, tell some of the ways you imagine doing it. And they said, whenever they really push my buttons, I think of all kind of crazy ways of doing it. No one do it, of course, but they think about it. And then how many of you have thought about saving their lives, and you wouldn't want to be without them? And they always have these two polarities. And I always say that when you infatuate with them, you don't want to lose them. When you resent them, you don't want to be with them. The key is to put those two together and just love them.
That's so true. Folks, if you're just tuning in, we're having a fantastic conversation with Dr. John Demartini. We didn't pull any punches this episode. We went right into some of the heart of his teaching. So if you're just tuning in, you can actually download the archives for free if you missed the first part of the show by logging on to www.unity.fm. You can scroll down the program directory and click on Living on Purpose with Jesse Harriet, and you can download the show for free, and you can even send it to someone in an email, share it on Facebook, or share it on Twitter. And there's also a Stitcher app that's compatible with select phones. You can download that and take the show with you on the go. We'll be right back. We have to take a quick commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more Dr. John Demartini on Living on Purpose.
You're listening to Unity Online Radio. This programming is made possible through the generous love offerings of listeners like you. If you feel spiritually fed by this programming, we invite you to contribute. Go to www.unity.fm and click on Donate Now.
Who are we? Who is God? And what is our life's purpose? Author and minister Ogun Holder found his answers the hard way. Through inner turmoil and doubt, with candor and humor, he shares why it's good to doubt, even if you're a minister, in Rants to Revelations, new from Unity Books.
Simply put, to doubt myself is to doubt God. If I embrace God as the very operating principles of the universe, the connecting space between us, the fabric of existence, and that I am the physical embodiment of all that, then how could there be room for doubt in myself? My salvation lies in the following premise: doubt is the beginning of faith.
Read more from Rants to Revelations and order your copy today. Visit rantstorevs.com.
Are you tired of life slamming the door in your face? Did you get another rejection letter, pink slip, foreclosure notice, or go on yet another bad date? Does it seem like the older you get, the more hopeless life seems? Are you ready to stop taking no as your final answer? Then join us for Design Your Life, a talk show by Kevin Cottrell Ross, the coach's coach. Go into the locker room for 1 full hour with the championship coach every week and start designing your winning playbook that will make the rest of your life the best of your life. That's Design Your Life with Kevin Cottrell Ross, the coach's coach, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Central Time on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
Thank you for joining us for Living on Purpose. Here is your host, Jesse Harriet.
And we're back on Living on Purpose with my guest, Dr. John Demartini, and we almost got into a discussion off air. I tried to pull back, folks, because I wanted to save it for you. I was asking Dr. John about a comment he made. He said, well, he's doing lots of different things, and there's lots of things going on his schedule, but there are things that he loves, and when he does what he loves, it energizes him. And I know all of you have questions about that. I've heard them. You've probably heard them from your friends, folks who deal with what I call the passion principle, and then those who deal with the other side of it, the other side of that passion principle. How do you, number one, stay energized when you do what you love? And then number two, how do you, in a sense, make that move into doing something you love and versus paying the bills? I guess it's like a two-part question.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, every human being lives by a set of priorities, a set of values, things from most important to least important in their lives. And whether they're conscious or unconscious of it, they're doing it. Every decision they make is based on what they believe will give them the greatest advantage over disadvantage, greatest reward over risk. The key is knowing what those values are. The key is to find out exactly what's the highest values, the highest priorities, and to start to prioritize your life and organize your life and fill your day with the highest priority actions you possibly can, and learn the art and mastery of delegating lower priority things. Because as long as you do low priority things that are desperate, you're going to keep devaluing yourself and robbing yourself of the potential energy you have and the drive you have to do something that inspires you. So you have to fill your day with things that inspire you, or it will keep filling up with things that don't. And then in your career, if you're not doing what you love, you've got two choices. Either go in there and ask, how is the job description you're doing today helping you get there? How is it helping you do what you love? And how is it on the way ultimately? Because otherwise you're going to feel drained all the time. And then you have to sit down and master plan your life about how you want to create an income source by serving people, doing what you love. Because if you never master plan that and work towards that, you'll always be trapped doing the other. So see how what you're doing is on the way, and then start master planning the way. And once you do, you'll open up the doorway to make living doing what you love, loving what you do. So your vocation and vacation's the same. So you don't have Monday morning blues, Wednesday hump days, thank God it's Fridays, and week friggin' ends all the time. I was talking the other day in Japan, and I said, it's interesting. The majority of people are working throughout the week, doing things that they're not inspired by just to make a living so they can get a vacation to go spend and blow the money so they then have to go back to work at doing something they don't love to do. And this is backwards. The wise thing to do is to go find out what you love to do. I sat and did a program with Donald Trump, and we both said the same thing with Richard Branson. If you're not doing what you love and loving what you do, man, you're missing out on life. So you want to prioritize what you're doing and learn the art of delegating. Because if you're not going to go after the high priority things, you're going to keep having to do low priority stuff, which is unfulfilling. And anytime you're not fulfilling your highest values and having fulfillment, immediate gratification sets in, and addictive behavior is nothing but immediate gratification, which is compensation for unfulfilled highest values. And then you erode instead of explode.
Wow. That was a mouthful. It's like I was talking to Bishop John Shepherd Sprong a while back. He said, you got to be careful, Jess. It's going to give you spiritual indigestion. You have to take it down slowly. But it's so true. Dr. Phil Cook, who's an award-winning Hollywood producer, was on the show, and he said, you know what, find that one thing that you'd be willing to, work at Starbucks on the side for, because you have to pay your bills. You get some people, Dr. John Demartini, who are single, and they can just go for it, they can just put it all out there and do the Roman noodles, like how you do in college, and then they get there, and then you have others who try to do the same thing, but they're married with 3 kids and take their wives through HE double hockey sticks, if I can say that on air, and then they end up getting divorced, but yet they still reach their goal. How do you recommend we attack that? Let's start with the couples.
Well, I tell people, even in the couples, I sit down with the wife and I said, here, if we continue to do what we're doing, we're going to have mediocrity. And I don't want to demonstrate mediocrity to my family. I want us to both buckle under. I want us to both prioritize things, and let's get on with the things so we can both work towards a big dream. It'll show our kids what's possible. It'll show our lives what's possible. We may have to work extra hours. We may have to go through our challenges. We may have to go and educate ourselves further. We may even have to have some long nights with very little sleep. But you know what? It's worth it, because the dreams of fulfillment are more powerful than immediate gratification in the long run. But you have to save. So many people don't save their money. They're working their whole life for money and extending their consumerism beyond what they can pay. You have to save and let your money work for you, or you're going to be its slave. You got to be its master.
That's true. People in churches are willing to tithe to the church, to expand the community, but they don't tithe to themselves. And I think that's crazy.
You have to do both. You have to do both. Until you value you, don't expect the world to. Until you invest in you, don't expect the world to. Until you believe in yourself, don't expect the world to. Once you do, magic occurs. The moment I started to save my money and value me, I was amazed how the doors opened. I just kept accelerating that and to keep increasing that, and it just spread until now I'm blessed to go across the world with it.
Mm-hmm. What's that saying you say, you have more pay at the end of your paycheck?
Well, if you have more money at the end of your month than month at the end of your money, you've been wisely managing your money. But if not, you've been going backwards. And everybody can save. Look, can I share a story? Do I have time for a story? Can I share a story? Yeah. This is a knocker. I was in South Africa, in Cape Town, South Africa. I'm doing a program to about 600-800 people, and there's on finance. And in the back of the room, way in the back, is a young boy who's about 13, 14 years old, who is sitting there. I didn't get to meet him. I didn't know him, but he's back there. In December, that was September. Then December, I come back and do the same thing, another 600-800 people. And all of a sudden, that boy comes up the front. And he says, Dr. Demartini, I've been wanting to meet you. I met you, a few months ago at the program. Or I didn't meet you, but I listened to you, and you inspired me. And I said, great. He says, can I talk to you for just a second? I said, yeah. There's a bunch of people gathered around. He says, I'm 14 years old, and you made a difference in my life. I said, what happened? He says, well, my mother and father died of AIDS, and I have 9 brothers and sisters, and I'm the oldest, so I have to be the parents for all of them. And I work at a factory that makes bricks. I walk 45 minutes to and from, and I make literally 60 cents a day making bricks. And I started doing what you told me. You told me to save my money. I started saving 20% of my money. And I'm sitting there going, how the hell do you do that? And he said, 20% of my money, I paid 15 cents per day to a lady to take care of my kids while I'm gone, to kind of teach them and try to take care of them and nanny them and things. And then I put the rest towards the bills, and I save. I've saved $7.20 since September. And this time next year, Christmas time next year, I'm going to put down literally $25 on a new house in a township. And now he lives in a township called Kailicha, where there are 2 million people living in a square mile. It's really run down. And he was saving it, and he had a dream. Now, I could have bought him a house. I could have just, here, go do it. But he was so inspired by what he was doing, and he'd learned he could save, and he said, I'm now prioritizing my life. I'm now working. I'm thinking of ways I can add more value to the factory. I'm going to get a raise. I'm going to save more. And a year went by, and I saw this boy. I have a picture of me going to his house. He went and bought the house. It was a $200 house. He put $25 down on it, paid a ridiculously high mortgage rate. But he basically got that house for his kids with a light bulb, and it was near water, and this little boy was a dream builder. And he said, my dream is to do what I can with 1,000 kids in this whole township. There's thousands of kids that don't have any family, don't have anything, and they're trying to do what I'm doing. I'm going to inspire them. So it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you've gone through. What matters is, are you applying the principles that build dreams?
Right. And, sometimes in those cases, if you intervene the wrong way in someone else's story because you feel compassion and you want to, in a sense, shortcut, or cut short what it is that they're experiencing, sometimes you, in a sense, thwart their destiny. They need to go through that sometimes.
You rob them of their accountability, responsibility, productivity, and dignity. And when you do, you rob them of the spirit to drive, to find out what they're capable of. Because if you see them destitute, you're going to build it. You got to see within them the genius. When you do, you inspire that within them.
Right.
Challenges are what make great people.
That is so true. That is so true. Because when you get folks who are first or second generation rich or second generation wealthy, they don't appreciate the money sometimes, the way that that first generation did, who had to work and, in a sense, make it, unless they spin off and make their own and, have their own companies and things like that in order to perpetuate that legacy.
Well, if you're not dedicated to service, you don't care about humanity.
Right.
That's the bottom line. If you're poor, it's because you're not. My dad, when I was 9 years old, I went to my dad. I said, Dad, I want to make some money. He said, well, have you cleaned the garage? I said, yeah. Have you mowed the yard? Yeah. You swept the sidewalk? Yeah. You edged the sidewalk? Yeah. You pulled out the weeds? Yeah. You clipped the hedges? Yeah. You done my shoes? Yep. He said, son, then I don't have anything else to do. If you want to make money, you're going to have to go to the neighbors. So I went to the neighbors up and down the street looking for things to do, mowing and edging, whatever I could. And I found jobs, and I started making money. And my dad said, I see you got a baseball. I see you got a glove. Where'd you buy this? I said, I worked for it. He said, well, what did you do? I said, I started mowing and edging. And he said, what equipment did you use? I said, all the equipment in the garage. He said, son, I got to charge you for that. So then I had to come up with I had to do a couple more lawns to be able to pay him back for what I owed him. And then I realized I got to manage my money more effectively. And I then started getting other kids in the neighborhood to help me. I had 9 kids working for me when I was 9 years old, and I was netting $45 a day after paying them and everybody and my dad. That's about $500 a day today. But I was making good money, and my dad said, I want to teach you the next level of freedom. I said, what's that? He says, I'm going to start making you pay for room, shelter, and clothing here at the house. But by doing that, you're going to have the freedom to go anywhere you want to go on your new bike, as far as you want to go, as long as you're home by 9 o'clock. He gave me freedom and was teaching me to be an entrepreneur when I was 9.
Right. My mom did the same thing for me. Before I was able to go out and get a job, I started my own lawn care business, and I went door to door. Hey, you need your grass cut? Some folks were saying yes, some folks were saying no. So I figured out how to underbid the competition, and I would I would take the lawnmower and I would run with it and cut their grass and do it in 20 minutes. Take that $20 and go to the next person. And once I made my $500, I was straight, And before I knew it, I learned how to start my own business, and it was just like that, how to, put bids out and do all of that wonderful stuff. My next question to you is, how do we know when we've reached that ceiling? Because based on your story, you worked for your parents, and then your dad was like, okay, this is pretty much it. This is as far as you can go in the parent company. Now I need you to go outside and go to the next level. So you expanded your company, and then you went and you did the neighborhood thing. And then at the end of that process, I'm sure you went and did something else. How do we know when we reach the glass ceiling in whatever vocation we're in?
I don't think there is a glass ceiling. I always say that there's never a limit on any business. All you got to do is look at where else you can serve. And if you're willing to go and serve more, you have no limit on a service. I had a lady in London. I was doing the breakthrough experience in London, and she stood up and she says, what do you do if you got a job that works for the government and you can only make this amount? There's no raises, there's no this, there's no that. I said, well, you got limited thinking, baby. I said, let's get out of that and let's look at something new. Let's look at that government job, and let's look at make a list right now of every type of thing that they need in that job. Every other service that's available there, because you're just not thinking of service, you're thinking about reward. If you limit on the reward, you're not going to limit. You're going to limit the service. So I made her list about 15 things that she could do that she could add value to the government and offer her services and new positions. Within 4 months, it'd take her 4 months, but within 4 months, she doubled her income. So that was the first step. Then I said, now if you're smart, instead of raising your lifestyle, you'll take that doubled income and put it in savings. Don't raise your lifestyle, just raise the savings. And the moment you get savings, you'll have more confidence and more courage to ask for what you want. And that's what she's doing now. She's now at a point where she's going to get more income because she's valuing herself. So there's no limit on it. There's never a limit. You just got to give yourself permission to serve and care about another human being, to find out what their needs are and find out what their values are and fill those needs directly or indirectly through your services or somebody else's.
That's so true, because at the end of the day, somebody's the CEO, somebody's doing well. You don't have to stay where you are. Another question. I know we have like 4 minutes left in this interview. How do you, in a sense, settle that itch that comes, when you're 35 years old and you're in the company, you're like, and some people see it as flightiness, so to speak. How do you settle that itch and set your target and go? Phil Cook said something that's amazing. He said, just imagine what you can do if you throw your all, and not just your talent and your skill, but you throw your all into whatever it is you're doing. I mean, you'll have amazing results. And some people do get by on their talent versus throwing themselves into something. But how do you settle that itch to get people to, in a sense, realize, hey, you have a wonderful opportunity right there in front of you?
Well, I would say that if you make a list of everything you're doing in a day at your work, and you write down what your highest values are and what's most meaningful, what your purpose is, and get it clear, and then ask, how is this job helping me on the way? If you keep asking, how is it helping me? What's it teaching me? What opening doors is it doing? Well, what service is it providing? What new networks is it opening? And stack up all the reasons and benefits of what that is doing for you. Your heart and soul will go into it. And once you put your heart and soul into the corporation, you animate it, and you get more enthusiasm, more inspiration, more gratitude, more love, and you become indispensable to the company, and you got more power in that company, and you have more confidence to go on to the next thing, whatever it may be.
Very true, very true. 3 minutes left in the show, Dr. Demartini. What's next for you? What's the next 20, 30 years, 40 years for Dr. John Demartini? What can we expect from your ministry, your work, and your teaching, and your impact in the world?
Well, I made a commitment when I was 17 to step foot in every country on the face of the earth. I've done my breakthrough program in 60 countries. I've been in about 90 countries. I'm still working on that. I haven't stopped yet. We got 3 new countries this year. We got Nigeria coming up, and we've got some Middle East countries, etc. I'm just going to keep doing what I do, keep writing books, keep sharing, try to reach it, delegate more and more, get more. I have 3,000 teachers now that I've taught to help me teach. I'm going to keep doing it until I have 100,000 of them out there teaching. I'm going to keep doing everything I love doing every day. That's just the way I love my life.
Right. And folks, that's where the key is. If you can, in a sense, incorporate everything that Dr. John Demartini was talking about over the show and focus your energy on where you are and do what you love, you'll have that energy in order to, combat life and to get out there and to make it happen. And you can fulfill your dreams, and you can fulfill your goals, and you can, in a sense, fulfill your destiny. It doesn't have to just be someone else out there. You don't have to be the person sitting behind the television screen looking and wishing and hoping. You can get out there and get in the game. Like, there's no special person out, it's not like all of us. Some of us have this special fairy dust that's been sprinkled on us, and some of us don't. You can get out there and play. You don't have to just be a stander by. You don't have to stand on the sideline. You can participate in the game.
Well, I'm a firm believer in everything you just said. I always believe that it's up to you. Nobody gets up in the morning and dedicates their life to you. It's up to you. But once you do, man, the door of opportunity is open for you.
Dr. John, thank you so much. How can we get a hold of you, participate in the seminars, get your information, buy your books? I know they're in bookstores worldwide, but how can we get more information on your work?
All they have to do is go to drdemartini.com, just DRDEMARTINI.com, drdemartini.com, or Facebook. But if you go there, my website is just filled with information, even free downloads on how to determine your values. There's education, there's radio, there's television, there's media, there's everything there for people to educate themselves so they can live an inspired life.
Thank you so much, Dr. John Demartini. This has been a high-energy conversation. I'm definitely going to take the energy and run with it and attack my life. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much. Folks, stay tuned.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Folks, stay tuned. If you're just tuning in, we're getting ready to go to a commercial break and come back with Rev Raymond Duke from Decatur, Georgia. But you can also download the show in its entirety if you missed it by logging on to www.unity.fm, and you can scroll down the program directory, click on Living on Purpose with Jesse Harriet, and download away. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Stay tuned.
Wellness expert Dr. Michelle Robin on healthy living.
In the game of wellness, there's some basic habits that you need to embrace in order to live a well life.
In her book, Wellness on a Shoestring, Robin shows you that complete wellness of body, mind, and spirit doesn't have to cost a fortune. Client Eddie Penrice turned his health around with Dr. Robin's 7 Habits for a Healthy Life.
I've got to say my body just embraced the change. besides feeling better, looking better, thinking more clearly.
Many of Robin's 7 habits for a healthy life are simple and free. She offers tips and shares real stories from clients like Eddie, who've incorporated the habits into their lives and seen the results.
You can make this change by being convicted that you will do it, that you don't need anyone else's assistance or help to do it.
Make this the year you get healthy. Discover a low-cost, attainable path to feeling better than ever. Order Wellness on a Shoestring today at www.shopunity.org.
Do you think you know all you want to know about the characters in the Bible? Do you know who could be called the king who loved too much? Or what it means to be a Jezebel? Or that the best love story in the Bible begins with the declared commitment of 2 women? The Bible's symbolic meaning can help you transform your life and discover the presence and power of God within you. Find out what these characters can teach you about your own life today by tuning into Biblical Power for Your Life. Each week, co-hosts Reverends Karen Tudor and E.J. Niles present a Bible character from a historical, cultural, psychological, and symbolic perspective. Your comments and questions are part of this lively discussion. Tune in every Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and power up your life, only at Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
You've been listening to Living on Purpose with Jesse Harriet. If you have a question or comment about today's broadcast, or if you'd like to join in the discussion, friend us on Facebook at Jesse Harriet, or email us at livingonpurpose@unityonlineradio.org. Now back to Living on Purpose.
And we're back in our final segment. Joining us for this segment right after Dr. John Demartini is Rev. Raymond Duke, my friend and a colleague right here in Atlanta, Georgia, by way of Decatur, Georgia. Rev. Raymond Duke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. It is an honor, a privilege. I feel very, very special to be on your show. Congratulations on even having the show in the first place. And I think it's awesome that you have provided a safe space for people to talk and have conversations and voice their comments and concerns about living on purpose. And the reality is that psychology and spirituality, they go hand in hand, and they meet up with each other on a daily basis. So thanks for having me on your show.
Well, I appreciate that. And they do. I mean, our how we live is influenced by our psychology, the way we think. The word psychology, has to do with soul, psychology, and I believe if we're living from that space and that place, then we'll be able to fulfill our purpose and our passion. Most of us are living from our intellect, and not necessarily from a soul level, from a deeper level. We're not listening to that intuitive voice, that comes and gives us insights and flashes and tells us where to go and what to do. But anyway, Rev. Ray, tell us about your ministry and about the work you're doing and how you got started.
Okay. The work I do and how I got started. Okay. I got started in human resources probably when I was 14 years old. Mm-hmm. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. There was a program, a summer jobs program called our CETA program. And you would have to fill out an application, bring it home, let your parents sign it. And I got a summer job working at University Hospitals of Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And I was excited about being able to work at that hospital as a adolescent and help other people, take medicine throughout the hospital and supplies throughout the hospital, and then moved on to working in radiology, transporting patients back and forth. So I enjoyed doing that. One afternoon, late afternoon, I was taking out garbage, and there was this strong, audible pull while I was in the shed taking out the trash that said, "Feed my sheep." I'll never forget, it was almost like someone was standing there with me having a conversation. That's how audible it was. And I was like, no, not talking to me. there's something no one's here but me. Well, let me get this garbage out and get back in the house because I'm hearing things. And then it came a little stronger. And I went to my pastor at the time in Cleveland at Second Mount Carmel Baptist Church, and I talked to my pastor about it. And so we had some conversations. He said, "Oh, that's God talking to you, man. It's God." And so he said, "Well, I'll tell you what. You'll do your trial sermon, and we'll see what happens from there." And so I did that. It was a hit. But then, of course, being a 16-year-old and all the things that come with that, you sort of be like, "No, I can't do this. I can't be friends with this pack of people and preach. I can't do this and teach." And, I don't care how much you try to run away from your calling or what it is that you're supposed to do. You can run, but you can't hide. And, if you hide your head, your feet will show. If you hide your feet, your head will show. And so finally I gave in and got busy doing God's work and, thinking that I was supposed to be feeding his sheep as far as getting together after church and cooking for folks. But then I realized it meant feeding their minds and talking to people. But I like what Christ said, or of course the Bible documents that Christ had said, "Great things have I done, but greater will you do." And so I thought about that. I was like, Jesus raised dead bodies. He resurrected dead bodies. And it's my goal to do greater, and that's to resurrect dead minds. And so that's what I do. And aside from that, Christianity connected all up and through there with working with the community and working with people I serve. I got involved in HIV in the mid-'80s from a educational standpoint. So going out, educating the community about it, and being concerned about people's welfare, not just from an HIV standpoint, but from being tested and screened for sexually transmitted diseases so that people understand how to stay healthy, how to protect themselves, their partners, their community. And my email address says it all. It's raysaveslife@yahoo.com. And so fortunately for me, the Creator works with me in a way where I'm able to take the spiritual aspect of myself with the day-to-day work that I do and mold them together so that I can not just only help somebody from a psychological standpoint or from a spiritual standpoint or from a clinical standpoint, but I can reach them on a holistic standpoint. So what I like what you said earlier about the intellect, how most people work from that area, then some people work from an intuitive area. Well, you have to realize that when you take the intellect and the intuition and you marry them, they give birth to so many wonderful things. And it's okay to be intellectual.
Yes.
But if you're very powerful intellectual and you're not so powerful intuitively, you need to spiritualize your intuition so there's balance. So you can bring both of them together, the yin and the yang, and you give birth to so many wonderful, fabulous things that not only help you, but help your fellow man. And so working from metaphysical standpoint and a spiritual standpoint, coupling psychology and mixing Christianity in there, someone can come to you and they have more at the buffet to partake in. So I'm not limited in scope when it comes to my theological teaching and going through seminary and graduating with a master's in theology, but also just being an everyday preacher called by God and having that ecclesiastical thing birthed in me and utilizing it on a daily basis, and then being taught under some very powerful preachers along the way, Reverend C.D. Gant, Reverend A.E. Campbell in Cleveland, Ohio, and of course here, Dennis A. Meredith, and then currently under the powerful, dynamic, awesome Reverend Rowena Silvera. That is just a mess and a half all by herself. And anybody who, if you don't leave her presence better than you came, then it ain't her.
Right. I know, Rev Rowe is a dear friend of mine, and I connect with her, and her ministry is powerful. And then, folks, if you're in the Decatur, Georgia, or Atlanta, Georgia area, it would be wise to stop by and check her out. You can Google her name, Rev Rowe. She's been on the show, and you can pull up ADT, a Different Thought Ministry, and you can actually go down there and check her out. They're doing some powerful stuff. I know we have like 6 minutes left in the show. You said so much, and the gist of it, if I could take it all together, you talked a lot about bivocationalism, and what you actually do is dear to my heart, because that's the reason why I do what I do today. At 12 years old, my mother was diagnosed with HIV, and she battled that illness and still battles it today. And she's healthy and strong and wise, and she's my inspiration. And my mother is actually my guru. And so, because of that and what I experienced as a result, being a child, and my brothers, growing up in the home with someone who was battling that, and not necessarily feeling like you could connect with everyone else because you had something that made you different, or your parent had something that made them different from all the other parents, but yet watching your mom persevere and stuff, ministry and connecting with people on a soul level is very dear to my heart. So I commend you for the work you're doing in that area, because I think at the end of the day, with spirituality and everything that's out there about healing and manifestation and all that's good. But at the end of the day, we live in a physical world. So we have to, in a sense, talk in that language. The greater works that Jesus talked about is the hospitals. It is the hospice care. Right. It is, the psychologists that have, and the psychiatrists and all of the medicines that's out. That's the greater works that Jesus and so many other teachers talked about. Merging bridging heaven and earth, merging science with spirituality, and merging intellect with soul and intuition, bringing the two together, the yin and the yang that you talked about. So,
that's so important.
It's very important. And so I love the fact that you are bivocational. You are taking your physical work that you do day by day, and you are taking your theological and spiritual work and merging them together. Because I think that's what folks need to see now. They need to see more spiritual leaders who are doing both, and not taking their families through hell, by giving up paying bills and giving up their jobs and saying, I want to live for God. You can do both.
Right.
You can fulfill your calling and passion.
You need to do both.
Mm-hmm.
You actually need to do both. The other thing that I think I feel so blessed that God has also put me in the path of EFI, which allows me even more power to reach out. You never know when someone comes to you for counseling, or just to reach out to you as a minister or as a healthcare provider. When they come to you, when you can reach them on so many different levels, that every time God puts something before me to learn, I'm open and receptive like a sponge, because I can't be everything to everybody. That was Paul's job. But I can allow God to use me as a vessel so that anyone who comes into my space, they can leave better. So I'm always out there learning and growing and allowing God to flow through me and to make my purpose broaden. People ask to have their territories broadened. God's doing that anyway. I want him to broaden me with wisdom and knowledge and understanding. So, like, even right now, I'm in my Ayawo phase, so that I can learn more about every aspect of this universe, so that whenever I'm sitting in front of someone looking for the Christ in me, the Christ will show up in a manner that will meet the Christ in them and help them with their need. So I refuse to be limited, but I am always broadening my horizons so that I can be a help to some man, some woman, some boy or girl along the way. And, of course, knowing that my living is not in vain.
That's so true. We have about 2 minutes left in the show. Rev Ray, how can we get a hold of your ministry to bring you to our churches, our spiritual centers, to book you, for speaking engagements, or to just have a consultation with you about your coaching and your spiritual practices and your counseling practices? How can we get a hold of you?
They can reach me at RayRaySavesLives@yahoo.com. So that is RAYRAE. Saves, SAVESLIVES, RayRaySavesLives@yahoo.com. And after April 15th, 2013, I will have my new website up, and I will make sure that I get that information to you. And when they reach me on that, they'll be able to find me. But they can also find me at Raymond R. Duke on Facebook. So they can Facebook me as well. and they can follow me on Twitter at Raymond R. Duke as well. So I'm available for speaking engagements. I'm available to come out at your churches. I'm available for counseling and just to reach out and share life with people.
Beautiful.
Because that's what it's about.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that's pretty much our show for this week. I want to thank my guests, Reverend Dr. Raymond Duke and Dr. John Demartini for helping to put together a fabulous show, folks. I know you'll be blessed. On next week, we have an amazing show, 3 very powerful women. We have the fabulous Lathan Thomas. I call her the mommy guru, but she is amazing. She's a brand new Hay House author. Not brand new, but she's been out there for a minute writing for Hay House. The fabulous Niurka is joining the show, who just released a brand new book published by Random House about the power of communication, and Dr. Tawana Freeman, who is the spiritual leader of BlackLifeCoaches.net. You don't want to miss that show, and I love to continue the conversation via Facebook or Twitter. Just by searching Jesse Harriet, you can connect with me. Thanks so much, folks. Have a blessed day. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening to Living on Purpose with Jesse Harriet. Join us every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central for more insights into spiritual psychology, ancient wisdom, and how it connects to your life today. Living on Purpose, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world. This program is brought to you in part by www.jesseharriet.com, where psychology meets spirituality. Connect with us socially on Facebook and YouTube. Keyword search Jesse Harriet.
Whether you love the Bible or hate it, turn to it daily or refuse to have it in your house, The Bible Alive, Exploring Your Spiritual Roadmap is a program designed just for you. Unity Minister Rev Ed Townley presents the Bible as a practical, powerful spiritual roadmap full of wisdom and guidance for the challenges of life today. A roadmap for your spiritual journey. Isn't that just what you're seeking? Listen live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Time for The Bible Alive, Exploring Your Spiritual Roadmap with Rev Ed Townley. Only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
According to an ancient Hindu teaching, if you can only speak the truth and tell no lies for 12 consecutive years, you can attain enlightenment. Resolve to be honest with yourself and others starting today. And after 4,383 days, you just may become enlightened.
This meditative moment from Reverend Joan Gattuso and Unity Magazine is brought to you by Unity.
Is there a difference between the spiritual teachings you know and how you live your life? Does your day-to-day experience reflect what you truly value? Are you ready to receive your life and live the gift that you are? Join Janice Campbell, licensed Unity teacher, author, and coach each week as she shares inspiration and tools to help you identify and dissolve the limiting beliefs that prevent you from living the fullest expression of what you are. Talk with Janice live every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central on Receive Your Life, only on Unity Online Radio, the voice of an awakening world.
I'm one with you, you're one with me, together we...
Celebrated Unity minister and author Eric Butterworth tells us, the exciting thing is that wherever you may be along the way of unfoldment and self-realization, no matter what the problems or challenges you may face, there is always more in you, the mystery of God in you, the Christ in you, which means your potential for healing, for overcoming, for prosperity. There is no limit. Join us each week for Discovering Eric Butterworth, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Central Time with host Reverend Tom Thorpe, right here on Unity FM, the voice of an awakening world.
exploring our oneness with Spirit and each other. Unity Online Radio.
Sometimes you feel so alone and overwhelmed you don't know where to turn. These days, it seems like there is no end to our problems. We invite you to connect with Silent Unity, the 24-hour prayer ministry where someone is waiting to pray with you right now. Since 1890, Silent Unity has always been there. No judgment or dogma, just someone affirming the best for you. Call 816-969-2000 today. You can also connect online at unityprayervigil.org.